Hey guys, it's Mike from Chess Lifestyle, and yeah, firstly, apologies for not streaming yesterday. I just had a lot on my mind and a lot to deal with, and I just didn't get around to it. But yeah, basically yesterday, during the day, I actually went back to my old school to play a match. It was basically alumni against current students. And yeah, the match basically involved myself, former club member Abhishek Shenoy, my sister Emily, the history teacher Mr. Eagle, who basically coordinated a bunch of chess when I was there. I mean, like I pretty much ran the whole thing, but he like sourced like a lot of chess sets for us. So yeah, he was a great help, and actually he's got back into chess and is playing in some tournaments. So that's pretty cool. And then on board five, we had one of Mr. Eagle's friends, I guess you could say friends, like former students, a guy called Dylan. So we had these five players, and we basically played five current members. And on board one, if you guys have been following the streams, you'll know that there's a guy called Lucas who watches my streams, and he's around 2300 online. And yeah, he was at board one, and that's kind of, I mean, between me, Mr. Eagle, and Lucas, we kind of coordinated this match, right? But I even knew that board two. And it's funny because I literally haven't seen him since he was like 7, 8 years old, because he used to play at the same chess club I did when I was a kid. So that was wild to see him like I guess almost an 18-year-old now. Um, but yeah, no, it was a really interesting match, and yeah, basically, I filmed a bunch of footage of the different players playing, and I wasn't sure what content I'd create exactly, but I'm hoping actually next that I will stream the my games with Lucas, and hopefully Lucas joins the stream, and we can do some analysis together. I think that would be quite interesting. Um, but yeah, it was interesting because the match we well I thought that we were gonna have a landslide victory for the alumni because maybe Lucas is just being very modest, but he's reckoned that Mr. Eagle, our board four, was stronger than their board two. But it turns out that actually the match was very close, and after the first round, I forgot to mention the format. We were doing two games, 15 plus 10, and then just flip the colors. So in the first round, basically the score was tied 2.5, 2.5, and on the second round, the score was 4.5, 4.5. So it basically all came down to me whether I could beat Lucas. If we drew, then the match would be a tie. If I lost, then the team would lose. And it's crazy because yeah, I was the last game to finish, and I guess this has been a recurring story since like I was younger because yeah, like I actually have a video footage here of when I played for my school, and I was playing our rival school actually, and I was on board one, also the stronger player on paper, and everyone was relying on me again. Like the match was tied. Basically, if I won, the team would win. If I drew, the team would draw. If I lost, the team would lose. And as you can see, we were using digital clocks, but I believe at the time there was no increment on the clock. And around this moment here, I had 10 seconds. And apologies for how pixelated the video is. But basically, this piece here is my king. The piece I'm about to pick up is my queen. And that black pawn is one square away from queening. And obviously in the corner is the black king. So maybe you can pause the video, think for like 5 seconds, and think what you would play here. So yeah, if I had this position ever again, I mean, it just looks so obvious to me now. I mean, with all the experience I have of playing chess, like it's just really obvious that the way to win this is you want to force the opponent's king in front of a pawn, so the pawn can't promote. You then bring your king in, and then you can give checkmate, right? So just like queen, what square is that? Queen h6 check, king g8, and then king f6, and then it's just lights out. You just take the pawn and then you mate. But with 10 seconds on the clock, I started to panic, and I think for some reason, I thought that if I played queen h6, king g8, king f6, I thought that was a stalemate. And I got really panicked, and I didn't play this line. And I think, like, I don't think my tactics are necessarily that much better, but my pattern, like kind of my overall pattern and sense of the position, I just know that's not a stalemate, right? It's like I don't really calculate it. I don't really look specifically which squares they can go. I just know it's not a stalemate. Like that if that makes sense. So let's see what happened in the game. Yeah, so I guess I must have had like 10 to 15 seconds. I spent a good 5 seconds on this move. But yeah, he moves his king. And again, I should just probably bring my king in, but instead, I try to bring my queen in, and I realize at this moment, I literally have 2 seconds on the clock. And you got to remember that if I were to lose on time, I lose the game. So, and because the match, needed me to, my result determined the match, I just wanted to make sure I didn't lose. So I just made sure I took this pawn. And then, of course, this is a draw. But actually, I remember at the time, I had no idea. Also, I don't know who this is, but whoever pointed to this light square, like, that makes absolutely no sense. So I don't know who suggested that. But yeah, I mean, this endgame, like, I know now for sure it's which pawns are winning, which pawns are a draw. And yeah, this just comes with experience. And yeah, I had this weird deja vu that, oh, this is happening again, right? The teams are tied. It all comes down to my game, and I'm having to, play out this endgame. And yeah, I actually managed to win this time round, and that meant the alumni team won. So I was sad that no one filmed the finale actually, because it was an amazing like bishop endgame grind. It was like a bishop versus knight endgame where we had equal pawns, but I was just slowly grinding and finding a way in for my pieces and making like challenging pawn breaks. Yeah, it was just super super satisfying. I'm sure Lucas will have a lot to say. But yeah, that's basically all from me. I think we're going to move to the stream. Hopefully I make a nice transition and see you there. Basically, I had two games with Lucas. Yeah, this was the first game. I had the black pieces. And he played d4. I actually had no idea what he played with the white pieces. I just knew that we had one game where I played 1c3, and he played a very, very good game, and I managed to win it in a time scramble online. But I felt like, yeah, it was very strong as a player. So we get this Benoni. I have no idea what he's prepared. I'm just thinking like, oh my god, has he prepped like some move 40 like refutation or something? And he plays the Knight's Tour. So I'm like, okay, I have experimented with lines with this knight a6, knight c7 business. But I haven't. But I don't know. I just felt like I was actually feeling quite groggy. I think I'm a little bit sick right now, to be honest. And I just felt that I need to play something that I've had a bit more experience in. So I just put the knight on d7. This is all like mainline theory, right? And the idea here is that black plays rook e8. Somehow there's some a4, a6. And basically white will play some like slow improving move like queen c2. And black puts the knight on e5. And the idea is that if white tries to challenge this knight immediately, it gets super, super sharp because the knight comes in here, and it looks like this is like big trouble. But somehow, I think like you take on e4 or something. Okay, no, here is just lost. Wait, I don't remember. I think on knight c4, maybe, yeah, you take on e4. Like there's some like big like tactical complications. All works out for black, and this is really good. So this is why like the line was very popular, and this was the main line. But the problem is that white can always play h3. And now f4 is a threat, so then you need to play g5 to stop f4. And the theory continues. Like, it's really deep, it's really nuanced, it's really tricky. And white is very easily giving up the full advantage in one move. But the problem is there are just so many different ways that white can play it. And there's even, like, these super annoying lines. Like, in this position, after queen c2, knight e5, in this position, rather than play h3, which allows g5, knight b1 is even a move here. And this is like some grandmaster preparation where the idea is that you stop the g5 push, you then want to play h3 and f4, and if you play h6, like white just memorizes a bunch of theory, because now like for some reason we can't play g5 as well because it's like some f4 anyway, and somehow it works out. Like, I don't really know, and to be honest, I'm not interested in understanding this. So I think this queen e7 is extremely practical. Because what I'm aiming to do is put the knight on c7 and play for this kind of b5 push. This is the plan. And basically, yeah, like, yeah, I could tell like Lucas was in prep, and then suddenly he wasn't in prep, right? After this queen e7. And I don't think I've even played this online. Like, I think I've played like some knight e8 immediately, a6 immediately, rook e8 of course. But queen e7 was kind of like in the spur of the moment move. And actually, is it popular at all? Is anyone playing this queen e7? I'm very curious to see. Nice. Queen e7 1% of the time. I think it's super legit. Almost a novelty. 7 games. Love to see it. Okay, so queen e7. And yeah, basically a4 was played. I do my plan of knight e8, and yeah, I don't play a6. I think he was expecting me to play a6 because typically a4 and a6 are generally played in the Benoni, but I don't want to weaken my b6 square. And given that the knight is already coming to c4, I don't want to weaken it. So played knight e8. Yeah, wow, queen c2 gives up the whole advantage immediately. That's crazy. Yeah, so I played knight c7, and apparently knight c4 is keeping it an edge. But to me, I don't really see it, right? Like, I can always play knight e5, and I don't believe this plus 0.7. Like, this is just Benoni, and I don't believe it's... I'm completely comfortable. So, a6 was played, and again, yeah, like, Engine was screaming to play this f5 move. Really not my style to weaken the king unnecessarily, so I just improved my pieces. And I was constantly working out whether, like, this push was ever good, but... I never fancied this, actually. I always felt that this was always weak, and white can always plant a knight on b5. And if we ever get this structure and we don't get to play b5, then we're in big trouble. So I was always like wondering whether I can play b5, but I couldn't. So I played knight e5 instead, and I thought for sure Lucas would play knight e3, and I think this was his first mistake of the game, really. Because knight e3 feels very natural. And then I need to decide, what am I doing? Am I going to play with f5? Am I going to play g5, which feels a bit risky, although my bishop is covering the square? Because, you know, f4 might be coming, right? But he didn't play knight e3, and he just played knight takes e5. And as soon as he played this, I was very, very happy, because strategically speaking, in a Benoni, we've traded one minor piece, and now things are going to flow much more nicely. So I considered queen d4 here, and okay, I saw engine pop up as a move, but it's just unnecessary risk, right? My queen might get harassed, it might even get trapped. I don't want to take such a risk. So I just dropped the queen back to e7, and I just played rook b8 here, I think. Just keeping my options to play b5. And I don't exactly remember the move order here. I think it was something like this. And yeah, I came up with this plan of knight a6 to b4, which I was quite happy with. And Lucas pretty much took this in an instant. And what I found was that this knight takes e5 was a mistake, I feel like. And this bishop takes a6 was also a mistake. And these were like played like almost instantly. Welcome Arjun to the stream. We're reviewing my game against Lucas. I was hoping he would be on the stream, but unfortunately he's not. But yeah, I recaptured, and I was very, very happy now, because it's almost like I've got Benko compensation. I got full control of these potential entry points, right? Like if I don't have the a7 pawn, then maybe there's this. If I don't have the a6 pawn, maybe he can challenge for the b5 square. But now I've got full control of this. I have an open b file, and I can even plant a bishop on b5. I just felt super good about this. And I think like around here, I gave this check, and this was the final big blunder. And again, I think it's just these like instincts. Maybe it's like playing too much bullet chess. I don't even know if Lucas plays too much bullet, but this would be my guess. Because he played bishop e3 here, really fast. And of course, this is just a terrible blunder, because I can just win this pawn. And then it's just completely over, right? And still in this position, I was thinking he would play king h1, but I was already looking at this idea of f5. I think it looks really interesting. But even without f5, I felt like I just have a very pleasant position, right? I've got the bishop pair. My bishops are situated very nicely. I consider even bringing the queen in this way. This f5 push, as Engine recommends, like lots of ways to progress this position. And yeah, I just felt very, very good. But when he played bishop e3, I was like, okay, am I missing something? I'm feeling a bit groggy. I hope I haven't missed something. And basically, yeah, like queen e4. And then I played queen f2, and I basically just grabbed this other pawn, because why not? And yeah, I managed to just grind out this position, trade all the pieces, and win pretty comfortably, actually. And I also got this bishop versus knight endgame, and my bishop completely corralled Lucas's knight, and I managed to win. So this was very nice. So I think actually this queen e7 is something I'm going to look into more. I'm going to make a note of this actually. Because I have like a Benoni course on my Patreon, and I think like this queen e7 could be a really simple solution. So I think to this Knight's Tour variation, I'm gonna do some analysis here. Because I don't think learning the main lines are worth it at all. I think it's way too difficult, way too complicated, way too theory heavy, right? And the worst thing is, like, the white d4 players, some of them actually know the theory, right? This is, like, the problem. So, that was the first game. And then the second game, which was extremely clutch, I decided to play c3. He plays d5, and he plays this real fast, and then he plays queen b6 instantly. I was like, oh dear. Like, this is some, like, preparation. But I stuck to my guns, I stuck to my theory, played queen b3. And the point is that actually, if black were to start with knight f6, and we get this position with queen b6, this is where I actually don't play queen b3. Because this is actually a problem, this line, where I get these double pawns. Because knight c6 comes really fast, and it's not so easy to play this position. I defend here, and I want to defend with king d2, but then I get hit with knight e4. And this comes really, really fast. So that is why on knight f6, I recommend this move, knight d2. And I call this in my course c5 fireworks, because it really is just complete fireworks. Like, black can take on b2, but it's almost losing very, very quickly. And rook c1 was the move, of course, and then bishop e3. And this position is, like, really close to being lights out due to the fact that there's this pressure on c8. So, like, even this queen d6 can be met with e5, and this is already in trouble, and black already has to sack the queen. So there are all kinds of interesting lines with this knight d2 move, which I provide in my chessable course, which hopefully will come out in like a month. But yeah, when black plays with d5, then we can follow the rule of meeting queen b6 with queen b3, and I don't really mind this imbalance. Like, for sure, it's not ideal to have these isolated pawns, but it's not so bad as well. Like, I have the open a file. It creates an imbalance, and it means like I can always just sit my pieces on these squares, and I don't have to worry about, let's say, them ever taking, right? Because I can always undouble, right? So I don't mind these double pawns, actually. And the game went as follows. So as we looked at Lucas's prep, he was out of book at this e3. And then I just kind of developed my pieces, right? I put my king on d2 where I felt it was useful. Yeah, and I always had to be very careful of this idea of black ever playing knight a5 to come here. And this came up a bit later, right? Because, okay, I played f3 to stop this knight ever coming in. But with this bishop here, I had to be careful of this move. And I played h4 here, so I'm threatening this g4, h5. And yeah, you can see on knight a5, I can always sack and then play g4, h5. So I was always in time here. But actually, did I... Yeah, and then the point is on knight e2. Now I have to move knight c1, if needed. So I had to be very careful with not blundering a pawn or something like this. But everything was somehow harmonious. And I really liked this knight c1, knight e2, knight c1 maneuver, because I was basically playing to develop the knight this way. And yeah, it was a very cagey kind of position. I traded for bishops because I felt that these pawns... generally his bishop should be slightly better. And then, yeah, he traded and created an imbalance. So at this moment I was very, very happy, because now I'm playing bishop against knight, and you never know, maybe I can grind this out somehow. So I felt like g6 was a bit of a slow move. I was actually hoping to provoke black to come this way, in which I would play on the king side. But he played a6, which I think is a very sensible move. And actually, yeah, if black makes some other move like this, knight b5 is actually extremely strong. I didn't really see it in the game, but this is actually a tactic working out, because there's just overloaded pieces, so something is going to drop. So he played a6, which was a good move. And then I played the move g4, rook c8 I think was played, and I then removed my knight because I wanted to double on the c file. And again, you can see the power of having these double pawns. It means I can always recapture if needed. So here I considered playing rook c1, and just trying to double first, but I just felt it might be too drawish, and I felt like I needed to keep the bishops on. And at this moment, I think here, Lucas offered me a draw. And at this point, the team match wasn't like confirmed, but I wanted to play this on. I played bishop b1. He took my rook. I took back with the knight, of course. He played rook c8. And here I played knight d3 because I wanted to get this imbalance of bishop versus knight. And again, Lucas just went with the trade. And I think if Lucas kept the pieces on, you know, this bishop's not doing so much, right? When it's all limited like this. But after the trade, suddenly my bishop gets some activity. So I think, you know, if Lucas just improved his like ability to make correct exchanges, I think he would like, you know, improve a lot, basically. And here he played like a weird move. I think he wanted to try and reroute his knight to a better square. But then I found this really nice plan. I played rook a5, and I was hoping that he'd play knight c5 because then I could play knight c6. Sorry, then I could play rook c5, and now take the c file. And here, it's already getting a bit tricky. And I played the move b4, and it was around here. I remember he played rook c6. And I can't remember what I played because I remember I played one idea of playing for bishop c2, bishop a4. But I also played e4 around here as well. And it started to get really messy. But always it kind of felt like it was in my favor. And at some point, Lucas just was like down on the clock, wanted to resolve the pressure, and just took my rook on c5, which quite frankly is a terrible move. Because, yeah, I've got this weakness, which is just going to be a bigger and bigger weakness in the endgame, and he just undoubles the pawns for me. So I don't remember what exactly happened. It was something like this, but I don't remember. But he basically allowed me to undouble my pawns, keep the bishop. I improved all of these pawns. I made this break eventually as well. I think actually it was around here, like maybe this was the position. I played d5. This might actually be the game. I played like some d5 here. So yeah, it was something like this. But it was hard, right? Like in this position, it's not so clear like where the king belongs. Like if king c6, I was gonna play bishop a4, like where to go, and then now I was getting this passed pawn. So you see, as soon as the pawn structure improves, suddenly I'm doing all right. So yeah, basically I managed to grind this position out. It took many moves. And I had to do lots of maneuvering, but it was really a dream. It was just a beautiful position to be able to grind. Yeah, I got the win. So yeah, I was very happy to get this win. Okay, hello Lucas. So this is Lucas on who joins the streams a lot, and yeah, we played. The Alumni's won by half a point, and me and Lucas were playing the final game, and I managed to grind him down. And yeah, it was a close one. So any thoughts, Lucas?
Like, I mean, in the opening, I think it's like eco-ish, and yeah, I just shouldn't trade into an endgame. Like,
yeah, so this was the thing. Like, we had this like c3 venom position where he played queen b6, I played queen b3, and he took on b3. So I had these doubled pawns, but later in the game he undoubled my pawns, which going into an endgame. So this was just like, yeah, going really nice. But yeah, we're doing a tour of the school as well, so we better get back to the tour. But yeah, good games.
Yeah.
Yeah.